Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 93, and I wanted to share an experience I had when I was teaching first grade at the Cincinnati Waldorf School. It was the first year I really formally taught in a school, and I had received minimal training, having gone to first grade teacher training course in Sacramento, California, the Rudolph Steiner College. I'd also received some great mentoring from a man named Jim Starzinski and also from a woman, Grace Worth, who was the third grade teacher, or was she the fourth grade? She was the fourth grade teacher, I think, at that point at the school. Now, I was new to Waldorf education and was new to teaching, but I had always wanted to teach young people, and in fact had volunteered to help teach in a kindergarten when I was in high school. Anyway, Grace was meeting with me once a week, and we would go over what the goals of the next week were going to be, or even the next month. In Waldorf schools and Waldorf education, you teach through the block system. So for 1 month or 5 or 6 weeks, you would cover one topic in depth. And the block that was coming up for me was a math block with my first graders. It was the first math block. And in that first math block, I was going to introduce all of the math processes: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, all in a 1 month period. Now, Grace suggested, advised, somewhat insisted that I teach each process for 1 week. So it would be a 4-week block that I would start with addition, followed by subtraction, then multiplication, and then division. And she highly recommended that on the week I was going to teach each process, the first day of the week when I introduced it, that I would dress in the color that was associated with that process. Addition was green, subtraction, red, multiplication, yellow, and division. Wait, did I get that right? Division was red, subtraction was blue. So she also presented me with 4 capes. Now, each cape, of course, was a different color: green, blue, yellow, and red. She told me that on that day that I was going to introduce the process, which was each week a Monday, that I was simply to go out of the classroom, telling the children I had to go to the office to get something, and that they were to wait there very quietly until I got back. Once outside, I was to put on one of these capes and then go back in as the fairy for that process. So fairy plus, for instance, for addition. So that first Monday, this is exactly what I did. I went out, told the children I'd be back in a second. I had to do something. And I went out. Hanging on hooks in the hallway were the 4 capes. I put on the green one. And I went back into the classroom. And I started talking to the children, a little bit different voice. And I had some marbles with me, and I put them on various desks. And then I picked them back up, adding the numbers of marbles that were there, so that the children could understand that, well, in addition, you add one pile of something to another, and you end up with the sum. After a little while, I went back out, hung up the cape, caught my breath, and went back in. The children in my classroom were sitting there just stock still, kind of looking straight ahead as if they had some secret that they weren't quite sure if they should tell. And I can't remember what I said, but, something like, well, what's going on here? Y'all are so quiet. And one of the children said, well, Mr. Mayor, you can't believe what just happened. And they all got very excited at this point. I had 9 first graders, and they began to tell me all about what had happened when Fairy Plus had come into their classroom. One of the children, who was intellectually a little bit further, farther advanced than the rest of the students, asked me when I came in as Fairy Plus, he said, you look just like Mr. Mayor. My response to that was, well, I have to look like Mr. Mayor, otherwise I would frighten you. They kind of accepted that. Now, each one of the other processes I introduced in the same way. I have to say that those children were incredible with their math skills. They took those processes in with their imaginations. They believed wholeheartedly that fairies had come in to their classroom each one of those Mondays and had taught them about the process. And it just sunk in so deeply how that process worked. I taught that class through 3rd grade. And toward the end of 3rd grade, the children came up to me and started asking me, Mr. Mayor, were you the math fairies back in 1st grade? This is how powerful imagination is. And when we're children, our imaginations are especially strong. Unfortunately, as adults, we forget all this, and we try to work with children in a very unimaginative way. But you can use the imagination of children to accomplish all sorts of wonderful things. You can make their lives and your own much easier because you can prepare a child for an event, for a trip, for something that they're about to experience through their imaginations, through telling them a story about what is going to happen to them. They visualize it all before it ever happens. So when it is happening, it's much easier for them to accept it and to assimilate the whole experience. All right, little snapshot of teaching and also a little glimpse into, human development. A little glimpse into how we can culture the imagination of our children or the young people in our lives that we know. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. And, it seems to me that most children, they love to have their imaginations engaged. You want to settle your child down? Well, start telling them a story. Make it up as you go along. I can almost guarantee you that you will have their attention very quickly. All right, that's it for today. More to come tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day or evening.